Hey everyone, welcome to the new tutorial. This one is going to be all about mouths. And I'm going to be breaking it right down into steps of how to draw the mouth, how to figure out the structure, working with the teeth inside the mouth, things like that. So yeah, let's get straight into the tutorial. Let's start really simple and we're going to draw a mouth from the front. Let's just say this is the center of the face here. And you're going to draw a line, maybe just straight across like this to start with. And then dip down, that'll be the dip down of the lips there, and then a little dimple, you know, they kind of curl back up into just a slight dimple. And then you want to have that there's actually a little dip usually that goes in the middle here, like a little V. And above that V you can have that little curl like this, that little hook where the lip joins. And then just go over and down. And it depends how full the top lip is, obviously, but you want to have a little bit of, you know, filler in there, maybe more subtle, could be more like this. And then underneath, I usually just go flat here and then curl back up again. And there you go, you got kind of the main mouth. If you want to add a little bit of volume to it, so I'll start erasing some of the parts we don't need, so especially that little flat bit in the middle there, and start to add a little bit of life into it. So I'll go up. You can have that little dip there, I call it like the dip, because it actually comes over like a cliff. It actually extrudes out just a little. It'll act like a little fold over the other part of the lip there. But I usually find, to be honest, that they're never that prominent. You might see it a lot in art, but in real life I don't really see it that prominent on people, so I would tone it down a bit. But yeah, try not to play up on that one too much, too exaggerated, just a little. It's more of a subtle detail. And when you're doing the bottom part of the lip, you know, it's usually flatter about here, across. And that's because there's usually two kind of big bulbs of meat in the lip there, the fleshy parts underneath. And from this point here and this point here, that's where I'll have that straight line go across. Let's just draw those a little clearer. So you'll have some bulbs up here in like pushing up and around. So that's kind of how those parts of the lips work. And then you get again down here and here. And then you'll also have, you know, the part in the middle there that kind of connects. But at the peak of the little circle there is where I like to connect that bottom lip. But as you're creating these lips, start to get these dimples on the sides a little. So there'll be a little bit of shading in those dimples that come up the side here. So you can kind of thicken that out a little bit. Let's just say you wanted to ink these out and make them look a bit more fancy. So you'd obviously have a little more, you'd have the thicker lines inside the lip, like through here. So thicken that out. Maybe leave one side of the dip here a little thinner, but the other side where the shading might be a little darker and thicker, let's thicken that up kind of like that. And then I might go across like this and down. So, you know, try to add a little bit of volume in those lines as it comes down. So you could even thicken out a little part there where the meat might connect. You know, see where the bottom lip and this top one kind of push against each other. Let's just thin those lines out a little. And I think that might look quite nice in the ink work as we do it. This is rough ink work, by the way, but there, like that. Do you see what I mean? And then the darkest points are inside of the bottom, like inside of the mouth there. And that'll really like bring your outlines across a little stronger and a little more stylized as well. You know, you can also add just a couple of little finer little details like that just up around where that dip comes around. So let's do a little bit of contouring just to explain how the shape of this goes if you're going to shade it. So I usually find that, you know, halfway through the lip here there'll be a lot of shadowing underneath, so that shadowing would be more underneath like this. I'll just quickly form that out. And then the bottom lip won't really have any at all. You might just have a couple of little bits like that, but as it gets down here, there's that shadow underneath the lip, and then that'll gradually come out this way. See, I'm going to try and explain the shading in just cross-hatching kind of with this red. So that'll be thicker and darker there, and then it'll sprawl out and spread out a little bit there to a more of a thinner. You can even come down and a bit wider, kind of like that if you need. But above, you know, we're going to have it a little darker in the top part of this lip here. But yeah, the contouring is more like this. So down and around, like up like that. We're going to split right down through the middle, and then you'll have the contouring a bit more like that. Kind of, yeah, you can kind of see it. There we go. Something kind of like that is how I would contour it. If I was going to do that lip from another angle, from the side maybe, kind of like this, I'd probably do it more like this. That dip you kind of see there curling over. Yeah, again, I don't really want it too obvious, because I just think it starts to look a bit too weird if it's too strong. This is kind of probably how I would shade or detail a mouth from this angle. And you can see how the lips kind of have that dimple strong again, like that, but then thin it out about this area here. Almost, sometimes you can even fade it right out like I have there, a bit of a break in the line. And that'll resemble the lips closed and pushing together. And then again here, darker under the lip and back up again. And I think that'll look quite good. And that's kind of how you would do it from the side. You wouldn't really see too much. At a more relaxed kind of angle, it would be just a little bit of... This is more like a side profile, by the way, so the nose, the nose would come off about there. But the lips would just come down like that and across. And that's pretty much how you would do it from a side profile there. And again, I'd probably just add a little bit more heavy shading underneath the lip and thinner shading above. All right, well, let's move into the fun stuff. I want to do some exaggerated kind of expressions of the mouth. All right, let's mess around with the mouth and the teeth, and I'll try and explain a good way to understand how they can work together. So let's do like your classic kind of angry mouth here. And I always kind of start with the teeth a little bit more. So you can even start by going around first. So say this is the top set of teeth here, and then you've got the bottom set, and you can kind of see the kind of angle that I'm going for here a little bit. You'll see it more as I go. So if I just draw the lips going over and down, so you can kind of see what I'm getting at there now. This is the point when you can start to really fill in those teeth, or you need to kind of work out where they're placed first. So if you're going to have the canine tooth is usually the first one. I'll try to find where it belongs first. So you can see with this model here, this 3D model, the canine teeth are there. That's the sharp ones that we use to really cut through things. You obviously have the two front teeth there. So if you look, you've got the canine teeth there, two front teeth, but you've got these ones in the middle. So I always work it out to be canine teeth and then just 4 in the middle front. So that's kind of how I work it out. And then all the molars will go up the side all the way up the back. So it's really pretty simple when you start to think about it like that, in the way of just these canines. Start with those, then 4, and then anything up the back is just the molars. But one thing to keep in mind as well when drawing teeth, which we'll get into soon, is that these front ones, as they come round, you see how they flatten out. They really flatten out to a point where they're really thin and sharp. And that's what we use to, obviously cut things. Our front teeth are usually the cutters, and then up the back are the grinders, and they get flatter and wider and thicker. So that's something to keep in mind when I'm drawing them as well, is these will be thicker, and then up the front they'll be a lot thinner and flatter. And so yeah, as I'm drawing here, you can see I'm starting to think about that canine teeth right there at the front, and another one about there. And then I'll start to think about, where the center is. The center is about here for this. So that's the middle of the front teeth. So I'll kind of think about those. And that means that there's going to be 2 little teeth right next to these canines and big teeth right here. So that's where I'm going to start I'm basically working out where these gums are going to go. You can see those gums coming in. Now we don't have to have them so prominent. This is just more of a guide right now. So obviously the big tooth will be more prominent there. But you can see I can now work out all, the molars up the back. They just keep going back and back into darkness basically. So I'm going to fill that in black right there. And again, a good way to work out the bottom teeth is just to make sure it's right. So that's the center of the face. If this is the center of the face here, then that's the center of the front teeth there and the bottom teeth there. So I'm putting a little gum line in there, and that usually helps me spread out, and work out all the way around. And you got to remember, these teeth are curving around, so kind of like this. So if I was going to draw the teeth, they would get more bunched up here as this turns around and wraps around that bend there. All the teeth are going to start to really, you know, fold over each other and wrap around. So, and then I can start to really spread them out as they're more seen in the front. So let's just do a quick rough guide here, and then they start to really fold around again here, kind of like that. You see how this tooth here, this one right here, is really starting to wrap around and continue around this side of the face. So that's one thing we need to keep in mind. And as you're doing that, so as you're wrapping these around, you'd start to add a more detail in these teeth as they go around. So around this side here, and then a little bit more detail here and here, but maybe not in the middle. So from there, a little bit in the top here to show where it is. And then as you get into these middle teeth, I barely show any detail at all. And what that does is it's kind of a stylized way of saying that they are white teeth. You know, you want them to kind of seem glowy. If I did the teeth like this and just had them lines all the way through, all the way across, it just kind of looks ugly and it doesn't look very appealing. So it's good to kind of stylize your lines as you're going. So I'll do a tiny little bit of detail there on the gums, and you'll see as I get into these teeth up here and again up here. But as we get around to where they start to tuck and fold over each other, you can have that full line come down. And over here especially, I'm going to start to really outline them, because it's kind of framing that tooth that's bending around, and that's a good way to do it. And again down here, really start to put in that line work now around. But like I said, in the middle, keep it nice and clear, and it'll come across looking like they're really white, vibrant kind of teeth. So again, you want to kind of do it up here. So I'm going to take away some of the detail through the middle to get that effect. So we want to I just want to make that canine tooth a little smaller. I don't want him to look like a vampire. Yeah, like I said, so here I'll put a little black kind of indent there. Now that I know where my teeth are roughly going to be, I'm going to start to detail some of these lines in. So here, so that will come up, and I can detail that in a bit, and then have it come down again, some line work, and then back up again. We can actually start to frame that tooth now that it's wrapping around the head. You can see that's a really thick dark line there, and then we'll have that go back to that molar in the back. And again, down, up, and really start to frame those teeth in more now. So there, kind of like that. So you see how as it's gone through the middle of the teeth, you can really see it's just pure white. Like there's not much detail, it's more minimal. And then as it continues around the side, it gets darker as it gets into darkness. So that's a really good way to kind of structure those teeth and the mouth that wraps around. Now in the aggression of this face, I've really got the muscles pulling down this way. Now this here is the corner of the mouth. So the corner of the mouth there, that's around here. That's about that part there. So you can kind of see as it comes down, and then the corner, and then it's wrapping back around here. So yes, just make sure that you go down. So you wouldn't have this, because some people might continue that right down until it gets to, you know, the bottom of the lip there, like that, and that's not the way to go. So I just wanted to point that out, that this is definitely the corner of the mouth right there. And at this angle, you wouldn't see it on the other side because it's just wrapped around the half side of the face there. So let's do another version of this, but a really open kind of mouth. So again, I'm drawing the teeth kind of like this, and you see how I'm kind of really trying to throw in a bit of motion there. So it's really in your first few line strokes where you'll get the most amount of motion, where it can kind of look animated in a way. So if you're trying to get that exaggerated expression, it's usually in my first few strokes of just throwing it in and trying to, you know, nut it out. So if we're going to have the bottom mouth maybe like this, so again I'll try and just throw in a few lines here for the teeth to try and structure them a little bit. Now I'll just put in a bit of a mouth. So there's the corner of the mouth about there, and then the top teeth can really be stretching up, quite dramatically. And again, finding those canines, so they're about here, and the other one can be about there, I guess, just roughly. And the middle of the tooth is about here, about there. So I'm trying to just figure out where those teeth are. And now I can just really put in those molars up and around the sides that keep going back. Now, as they come around, remember I said the front teeth, the cutters are like really sharp there, and then as it comes around here, they start to get thicker. So make sure you leave room for some thicker teeth to really be seen now, because now that these teeth are going to be bending around, we're going to start to really see them. So I'm going to just really start to show those back teeth actually inside the mouth now. And so they're really coming around like this. So the teeth, think of them like this and like that. And you see how they get really thin up the front here. So even to the point where there's just no, it's not, so it's just completely sharply cut off there. And then it gets thick as it gets toward the back there. So that's kind of how I'm trying to treat these as I'm going around. You can even draw that in. If it helps, just draw that kind of structure in that I've just drawn here. And notice how I really want to have that curl, like aggression is really showing teeth, and then they really lift up that top corner of their lip there. And the middle corner of the teeth, the dip that I was talking about, usually always points downward in the middle. And then this is the one that would lift up in aggression, this top corner here. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do there. Sometimes it helps to really fill out the darkness parts, like the darker parts that are going to be permanently there. So really fill it out in black. I usually like to do that about at this point before I even start detailing, now that I know the structure is all there. There we go. So that really helps me just to feel better about it. I always do that first, just fill out the black parts that I know are going to be black. So now I can start to really refine the teeth a bit more. Now that we know exactly where that canine is, the canine tooth, I'll probably do the gums first. The gums are usually the next step for me. And I'm erasing and drawing as I go. Remember, these are roughs. Usually I would do my rough sketch first and then ink over it. But today we're just going to try and clean up these roughs. And again, I'm just trying to really, as I'm getting into the darkness, the darker parts here, I'm thickening out those teeth details. So really thicken those out, the outlines, and then going back, trying to think of those molars as they get thicker. And also, it's very important to just detail each tooth. Literally draw, each section. So have it dip in. So dip in, drop. Frame each of these molar teeth. It'll look really a lot cooler if you do that. I'll do a little point for that canine tooth there, and see how I can actually show the point in it. And again, you don't want to go too drastic, or he will look like a vampire. Just enough to be like a normal human tooth. And then I'll go up and then shape that main middle tooth there. And I'll just put like a little dip in the middle of these just to show where the tooth actually is and breaks. There we go. So kind of like that, you see, once you start to refine it and bring it together a little more, things will start to come out a little stronger. And it's all about how you think about these teeth. So again, I like to make sure that these are nice and clear and white, especially up the front here. I do that in most of my artwork. Most of the characters you'll see, there's not really that much detail in the front of the teeth. I don't really like to draw as much. See here even, I want to take some of that out and just erase that part there, like literally just like that. So it's just white, and then as it comes around, you start to frame those teeth as they bend around. That's just a really cool technique, I think. And like I said, blackening out the inside of the mouth, really brings it across a lot stronger. And make sure these lips really just start to fold over the teeth there. So draw your teeth first, then wrap those lips over it that are wrapping around that same contouring. So giving it that curve to really wrap around. Alright, so let's just try a different angle, and I'll try and explain it a little bit more as I go. So I really like this kind of angle usually. So the head is kind of, it's straight at us, but it is kind of at a perspective downward, kind of like this. So you see that kind of perspective looking down. So let's try and see how the teeth would look like this if I was doing an aggressive kind of take on it. So, right, so what I want to start with is, think about the skull underneath. I'll just make a new layer. Your front teeth are going to be here. So let's always think about where the front teeth are going to go. So let's just say you have your skull like this. There's the cheekbones. This is the top part of the skull. There we go. So if I drew a skull in over the top, you can kind of see how that works now. And I'm always starting with the teeth here. So let's just draw the teeth in as if it was a skull. And you can see I'm following the arch in these teeth as well. They bend up and around. So we're going to try and do a little bit of that. All right, there you go. So you got a bit of a guide now. And if I just put that underneath and then we'll fade that back, you can see exactly where them teeth belong now. So that's kind of how I treat things. I always think about the skull first, because the skull and the teeth, they don't move. They're pretty locked in place. The only thing that really moves is the skin and the flesh over the top. So that's where all the expression comes from. So when I'm doing these lips, I'm starting to think about having that front lip dip down over the front teeth a little bit. But if I want to have aggression, I'm going to have the sides of the lips kind of arch up a little bit. And remember as well, we have to keep in mind that this angle, okay? So I'll put that over the top so we can understand the kind of angle that we're dealing with here. Which means the lips are also going to be going, they need to wrap around. So I can't just do the lips like this and then leave it like that, because that's not really using that angle. You see how that's straight? You know, that's not right. So what I would do is instead get that bottom lip, probably have it a little straighter at the bottom, just like that, but then start really bending that around the head like this. So really have that bottom lip bend up and around. I might even just bring it up slightly, a little more, and then it goes up and then really tucks, you know, up and around. We want that top lip to really be showing a bit of, you know, aggression there, like pulling it up. Think of it like a snarl, and then the other one's going to kind of go up a little bit as well, and then down and around. And you can see kind of now how that mouth is going to work. Everything's kind of really pulling down. You got the crease in the nose, everything's going to be pulling down like this, those kind of muscles. So now I can start to really think about these teeth and, you know, inside the mouth. So what I like to do at this angle is, again, I really like to try and draw that little black bit in the corners first to kind of help me guide myself. So over there and then down. And I like doing that because that just kind of helps me structure it a little bit better. But then, yeah, as we go, we're going to start to frame, like think about the teeth and really start to draw them in a little heavier as they're at these edges. So there's them canine teeth, thinking about them gums also. And then as I get through, again, I'm only going to start to really just suggest some details like here and then start to really just kind of bring it in thicker as it gets around, just like we did before. And that'll make it seem, yeah, like white teeth. So, and you can see again, I'm really framing these teeth here, but as I get here, I'm going to keep it nice and light in detail. There we go. So this guy's showing a lot of teeth, like it's a real, you know, he's really pulling that back. That schmirk. So you don't have to have it that much. I can erase parts out if you feel like it's just too much. I'm going to erase bits of it just so it's a little bit more natural. So kind of like that. And now I feel like it's starting to feel a little better. I just feel like it was too much, too intense, too wide. Even the top lip. So I can erase parts like this and then bring it down a little more. And I feel like even that is a little better. And I'll show you a little comparison in a minute. So we had that and now I'm like that. See, I feel like before it just looked a bit unnatural. So tuck it in a little more if you feel like you need to. So I just want to try another dramatic angle and show how we can do the teeth at this downward kind of angle. Alright, there we go. I just wanted to clean that up a little bit more. So yeah, again for the face, I need to try and think about the skull. Now there's no need to draw the entire skull, just as long as you know, or like roughly know where, you know, the teeth are attached to the skull. So in this case, it would be definitely here. So you got the cheekbones of the skull up, and they come out. So there's no need to draw all the rest of it, as long as you know, and you can just draw them as little bands. See, I like to draw the teeth as they wrap as little bands that kind of wrap around. This is how you'll envision them as you start to draw them, so constantly, you know. So just start to think of them as this, and again, you can draw them as little 3D bands if you want to. But yeah, the one thing I want to talk about is the bottom teeth there. So you see how they're kind of slightly changed in angle. So if I was going to draw the bottom teeth, I want to have an open mouth, by the way. So I really want to have an open mouth. So if I was going to draw the bottom teeth coming down, let's just say I want to have him kind of screaming, or kind of, yeah, big raw kind of angry guy. That's probably my favorite thing to draw when it comes to these things. So you're obviously going to have your front teeth follow that perspective again of kind of like this guy. You see the bend because he's looking down a little bit. This one is also kind of looking down. So I just want to adjust these teeth a little bit more so you can see. So kind of like that. And there's one thing that we've really got to keep in mind here, and it's that the jaw kind of swings. So we've really got to keep in mind that kind of hinge. You see where it attaches there in the red. So all around this area, and the jaw will open. And as it opens, you can kind of see at this kind of angle. I'll just change the angle a little bit. So if I have my guy kind of screaming, you can see that the angle of the bottom jaw completely changes. So it's no longer flat. It's actually twisted downward, and the angle changes. So you can see the skull here. If the top skull is more of a front angle like this, tilted down a little bit, the bottom jaw, you're nearly going to see like all of those molars at the teeth, and the way they curve down. You're going to get nearly a bird's eye view of that bottom jaw if this guy was kind of screaming. So that's kind of what I want to go for here. Now I'm just going to fade that guide back a little bit, and I'll start trying to detail this a little more. But actually, I think now that we've got that kind of laid out, those teeth, I might actually start doing the lips. So let's start doing that. Now, a cool thing to do, now the first thing you'd probably aim for is the stretch that goes on the side of the lips there as they pull down. So there's a bit of a stretch there up, and on the other side as well. And I like to have them go up and dip down into that front lip. Remember that point at the dip at the front. So really point that down and then arch them back up again. And then I'll do the front teeth. And then I'll detail a couple of those teeth as they start to kind of wrap around the head there. So kind of like that. And then the bottom lips can go... So I'd probably end the joint in the mouth probably about there, or a little lower, probably about there. And then have it come back around and stretch around for the bottom part of the mouth. And then we can go kind of straighter for the bottom lip, kind of straighter like that. A little bit of an arch, but not much. See, it's not completely straight, it's just a tiny arch, and then wrap it around the bottom teeth and around here. And now I can start to really detail these bottom teeth nearly at a bird's eye view, but I'll still show a little bit of detail from the front. Because I kind of want it, if he's angry, I really want that underbite to pop out, which means he's kind of pushing that bottom jaw out a little bit. And then as I get to the molars, I'm really going to start drawing them as little cubes even, or little squares like this. And I can literally draw the top of those little squares like this, so square them off and bring them down. So I'll start with the gums to kind of show where all my teeth are going to be, and then go off that and square them off again. So square that off. And then you can start to blacken it all out again. This is what I like to do now that I know where the structure is. Start to really add in that black. And don't forget, you might want to be able to see that tongue in there as well. So, you know, keep room for that tongue. And there we go. That's kind of how I would do it at that angle using that technique. And you can see the way the skull underneath wraps around like that. So, yeah, hopefully that helps you understand a little bit more about that. Let's try another really exaggerated one. But this time I want to start with the mouth shape, because sometimes it can really help to kind of roughly sketch out the lip shape first. So if you know in your mind exactly what kind of mouth you want, you might actually get more of a fluid or animated motion by sketching out that mouth first. So let's just say we want that. Like, I feel like that's quite animated and pretty crazy. And then if I put in some teeth, here for the front teeth, and then we'll just think about the bottom one. So if I have them kind of like this, and then I want it, because his mouth's wide open, we're going to see them molars kind of coming up a bit. So I want to do like a really crazy kind of angle. So kind of like that. Like, I feel like we've got some good motion in this. It feels very animated, so I'm going to just black out that because that makes me feel better about it. And I find it really easier to kind of detail more. Gives me a better visual, I feel like, if I really black it out in the middle. There, so I'm much happy with that. Like, I feel like this one here, it's a little stiff for me. That's because I was really honed in and really focused on, I think, the structure and anatomy. But here, mucking around with, just line work in general, so really throwing in those lines and trying to think of like a really animated mouth is where you get your better ones from. So that can work as well. And then I'm building on this. So I think the angle for this, I'll just quickly draw it up really faint in the background and see if we can get like a nice head added onto this. Yeah, because I feel like it would be a more upward kind of angle for a head on this kind of mouth. It is a bit weird to work backwards. Usually I draw the head first and then the mouth is usually kind of last, but in this case I just kind of went with it for the mouth. I really wanted to get that animated mouth and focus on that. So the jaw would be more pulled down and swinging out like this kind of. So let's try and really get that in. This is super cartoony, by the way, but I'll try and edge it out, make it look a little more realistic as we go. And one of the first things I'm noticing already, just as I'm drawing, is I feel like the mouth is way too big. So we'll shrink it right down and then add it in. And I feel like that'll be a lot better. So I'll try and match it to the head more rather than the bottom jaw. That bottom jaw is now too big. So just trying to judge it all by eye, really. There we go. I think we're going to turn this into Hugh Jackman's Logan. So I'm just drawing in the teeth now, trying to think about those gums. That's going to help me really form these teeth in. Again, I really want to try and make sure the teeth are, nice and detailed. I can clean up this rough sketch a little more now. And I want to try and get those teeth looking nice and clean. See how showing some gum can really brings across some aggression. So there's a Hugh Jackman Wolverine. That was a bit of fun. So you can kind of see what I'm doing with the mouth there, really exaggerated, just because of those first few strokes. So I really wanted to highlight that because it's something that I've always done, is just really focus on focusing on that one single stroke that can come out and turn into, a really exaggerated kind of mouth. Even if the teeth are kind of out of whack and stuff, as long as you get that energy across, doesn't really matter, So that's what I really wanted to highlight, was about the stylization, and try not to go too stiff like this one here. That's, even though that's like accurate in a way and it's more not anatomically correct, push it further with some fluidity and some motion, and you'll get that stylization across. So yeah. Another thing that I want to talk about is probably just the lips as well, and how they work, and how you can really exaggerate those around the mouth. So let's just say you've got some teeth drawn out like this, at this angle. You can kind of see the angle they're going at, around this kind of way. And then we want to draw some lips in, so I'll just fade those teeth back a little, and we'll focus on the lips on this one. Lips can go up and then dip around. I'd really like to see that kind of that dip that comes around. See how I'm trying to add some motion again, like before with the other thing, just really throwing in some lines to try and get some good motion. And you want to make sure those lips really tuck over. So I'll just add in a little bit of that darkness that comes in from the lip about there, like that. Just have that come in off the side. and you can add a little bit more around the bottom part of this down here. But that bottom lip can really come out and then, you know, have that protruding out, and then just say the chin comes out from that. So remember that the teeth will come down and there, so that's your chin about there. All right, the top lip can kind of do the same, so we want to make sure that that can come up here, so keep flowing past there and continue on the face. But you can also have that top lip kind of come out a little bit like this as well, and that'll look, you know, quite nice, a way of doing that. So I really wanted to just point out, you know, make sure your lips, like, think about those lips as well. So you can have that stop about there and then continue back up. So if I just draw the lips more tucked up over the teeth a little more there, we don't want to make it look angry or anything. This is just normal, just showing some teeth. And then, yeah, add a little bit of shading as it gets into the indents of there, and that should look quite nice. So let's fade back those actual teeth. So remember here on the lips also, it's just like a dimple in that bottom corner there. It's like a little dimple. Let me just take away some of those teeth there so we can see what's left. A nicely structured kind of mouth, something like that. So I'll just bring those teeth back full strength. And you should have something like that. But you can see what I mean. I really want to get those lips protruding out a little bit, you know, and make them, yeah, come off the face a little bit more. And let's just say you've got a nice big smile as well. So big smile, you can have it quite animated. So I like to make sure I think about that little dip in the front lip that comes down about there, and then we'll go up, and the bottom lip, and then back up again, and then we'll start to draw the teeth on the inside of the mouth. Now up here it gets really dark. You can even have that nice crease in there. But yeah, you're going to want to see, like when we smile, we're going to see some more gums at the top there because this part here is lifting up. So just remember the teeth are going to stay where they are. So let's just say the teeth are wrapping around the head about there. So we'll have that canine tooth there, duck in, dip in, and then yeah, I want to keep this quite clear here so that it looks like they're a nice white vibrant teeth. And then again, we're probably going to see some gums at the bottom there. As we go, we can start to fill out the other gums at the bottom now. And that's how I would probably do, you know, like a smile. So I really wanted to just point out how when this is rising up, you're really going to see a lot more gums because yeah, the teeth stay attached to the skull, and the only thing that moves is the flesh. So you're going to have the flesh rise up, showing more of those upper teeth. Also, don't be afraid to mess up the teeth, like here with this Chucky piece, because Chucky's, you know, pretty wild and messy, and he's been cut up. But like, you know, he's supposed to be scary, so his teeth are deliberately spaced out. I'm pretty sure it's with the doll model as well. His teeth are pretty whack, so I've really, you know, made them quite wonky. So you don't always have to have perfect teeth. It depends what kind of character you're doing. So if you're doing a monster or a zombie kind of guy, really mess them up. But yeah, I really wanted to make it clear that, you know, put the effort into teeth, really trying to just each individual tooth, you know, really show them, frame them, spend time on the inks and line work on those, especially if you've got a picture that kind of like this where the teeth are really going to be prominent, especially with Two-Face here, and it's you can see a lot of his teeth. So I wanted to make sure that I structured those properly, made sure the line work was very clear. So just, yeah, highly recommend spending some good time on the teeth and mouth, and that'll really just amp up your artwork big time. So yeah, here's a really old piece of mine, and I wish that I actually spent more time on these teeth. You see what I mean? See how it's quite rough, like I just kind of slapped it in, and I wouldn't do that these days, especially even with this line work. Now I'm looking at it, but I would have really spent a lot more time on these just to bring it out, bring more clarity to it. So yeah, this is one of my older ones from, I can't remember now what year, probably 2020, whenever Man of Steel was coming up anyway. So yeah, really old piece, not proud of this one, but I just wanted to point across that, yeah, I wish I spent more time on these teeth and mouths. You know, the idea is there. I don't mind the shape and that, but it's clarity. I wish I had more clarity. Alright everyone, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial and got something out of that. I think mouths are very important to draw because it's a focal point of the face. It's one of the main high details in the face as well, you know, seeing the teeth and the mouth and the way it moves. So it is very important to, have a good understanding of the mouth. So hopefully this helped in some way. Alright, well, I'll leave you all to it anyway. Keep drawing and I'll see you in the next tutorial.